So, when you think about arhats, what comes to mind? What kind of person in terms of gender? Male, female, both? So, I don't know about you, but until recently, my mental image of arhats was exclusively male. And I think one reason is because in the tankas, like tankas of the merit field, refuge objects, and so on, there's always a row of arhats, and they all look male. And also statues of arhats that I've seen in temples, museums. Also, they're always male. But as we learned in the last episode of this ongoing story of the life of Gotami, the Buddha's mother, she and the 500 other nuns, these are the first nuns who were ordained by the Buddha, all became arhats. And we also saw a quote from the Buddha in which he said that there were many other bhikshunis, fully ordained nuns, as well as lay women disciples who also attained nirvana, became arhats, and that means becoming completely free of all suffering and the causes of suffering. So now I realize that I need to change my mental image of arhats. And when I'm visualizing the merit field and the refuge objects and so on, I need to include some female figures in that row. And maybe Thangka painters should start doing the same. But then in our tradition, we say that no one remains as an arhat forever. After they attain Parinirvana, they stay for a while in Sukhavati, Amitabha's Pure Land, meditating blissfully inside of a lotus with a body, a mental body, not a physical body, until the Buddhas rouse them from this blissful meditation and inform them that they have more work to do. And then they generate bodhicitta, the aspiration to become a Buddha, fully enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. They enter the Bodhisattva's path and eventually become Buddhas. So it's possible that the person who was Gotami is now on the Bodhisattva's path, or maybe already a Buddha herself. We don't know. So today I'd like to talk about the last chapter of Gotami's life, her attainment of Parinirvana, which means passing away from this life. And I thought that I could do this in one talk, but I realized there's a lot of really juicy details, and then I don't want to squeeze it into just 15 minutes. So I'll start this time and then finish another time. And I found out in this book, which is called The Woman Who Raised the Buddha, that there is a scripture called the Apadana, and it's included in the Khuddaka Nikaya of the Pali Canon. And this scripture contains the life stories of the Buddha and many of his disciples, including 40 nuns such as Gotami. And this text has been translated into English by a scholar named Jonathan Walters, who teaches at Whitman College right here in Washington. And he put it up online, so you can download this text for free. And Gotami's biography consists of 189 verses, so it's quite long. But Wendy Garling summarizes it in the book, and I'll share some of the main points. So this story included in the scripture is actually about the last day of her life. And it takes place in Vaisali, where the Buddha has just returned. And she goes to visit the Buddha, pays respect, and then returns to the nunnery and sits in meditation. And with her superior vision, she realizes that some of her loved ones, including the Buddha, are going to attain parinirvana soon. They're going to pass away soon. And she has this strong feeling that she should do it first, that she should attain parinirvana before the Buddha. And so she decides to go and request his permission to do that. And coincidentally, the 500 other nuns who were also arhats and got ordained with her, they have this same kind of awareness that it's time for them to pass into parinirvana. And when they all make this resolve, there are these signs that happen in the environment, like the earth shakes and thunder roars in the sky, and heavenly goddesses begin to weep. So then there's this procession of these 501 female arhats going to the Buddha. And along the way, they meet many lay women who probably notice these things happening in the environment and want to know what's going on. And when they find out that Gotami is going to attain parinirvana, they get quite upset and start crying and asking her not to do that. They say, don't abandon us. But Gotami replies to them, speaks to them very sweetly, and assures them that the Buddha and his teachings will remain, but that she herself has accomplished what she set out to do. And so it's time for her to depart worldly existence. And she says, this isn't something to cry about. This is something to be happy about, to celebrate. Isn't that the whole point of the Dharma? And then she encourages them to do the same as she did, to accomplish what she did, follow the Buddha's teachings and attain freedom from suffering. And then finally, this group of Arhat nuns reaches the Buddha, and Gotami respectfully makes her request to him, asking his permission to attain parinirvana. And then she puts her head on his feet and says, I will bend to worship your feet, my son, with all my love. I'm bowing to the sun, S-U-N, for humanity, the banner of the Shakya clan. After this, my final death, I will not see you again. And then she asks the Buddha's forgiveness for any wrong that she may have done, such as making so many requests to be ordained, and any mistakes she may have made in her teachings to the other nuns. And the Buddha gently responds that no forgiveness is needed. Those who have seen nirvana require no forgiveness. And then he says the words, know that it is the right time, O Gotami, and in that way he accepts her request. There's a few more things that happen, but I'll skip over those for now. And then the Buddha asks Gotami to display miracles as evidence of her awakened state. And he says, yet there are still these fools who doubt that women too can grasp the truth. Gotami, show miracles that they might give up false views. And then the text continues with these amazing things that she does, kind of mind-boggling miracles. I'll just read a few in Wendy's book. With the tip of her finger, she covered the sun and the moon. She wore 1,000 suns and moons like a garland. She carried the waters of the 4 oceans in one hand and rained them forth like the great rain produced by the rain cloud at the end of an age. She made a wheel-turning monarch and his retinue appear on the surface of the sky. She showed a Garuda, an elephant, and a roaring lion. Thus, Gotami demonstrates her awakening for all to see. So I guess there was a big crowd of people around to witness all this. Proclaiming that she has arrived at her goal, she returns to the earth in ordinary form, humbly pays homage again to the Buddha, and sits by his side. The assembled witnesses erupt in cheers and praise. Then they ask, how did you attain this astonishing, unequaled level of accomplishment. Deeply respectful and in awe, they request that Mahaprajapati tell her story. And so then the next part of the text is Gotami telling her story, how she started her spiritual journey, which actually started long before this present life. And I want to do it justice, so I will leave it for next time. I'll leave you in this state of suspense. But this book contains some really beautiful conversations between Gotami and the Buddha, and clearly show that the love that they had for each other. So, for example, when she first started speaking to the Buddha to ask his permission to attain Parinirvana, she says, this is just a part of her words. She says, "I suckled you with mother's milk, which quenched thirst for a moment. From you I drank the Dharma milk, perpetually tranquil. You do not owe a debt to me, because I brought you up. Great sage, to get a son like you sates all desire for sons. Women can obtain with ease the names chief queen, king's mother. The hardest name of all to get is mother of the Buddha. O hero, I attained that name." And then when the Buddha responded to her request for forgiveness, she was saying, "Please forgive me for whatever wrong I did." So his words are also quite beautiful. He says, "The gold from the great jambu tree in the Himalayan forest needs not be refined, nor does the Queen Mother need to be forgiven, as there is nothing to forgive. It is not requisite that those who have seen Nirvana should forgive each other. Yet, as you have requested it, and it is the custom of Buddhas thus to forgive, what you seek is granted, as what you ask for is good." And then he gave her the permission to pass into Parinirvana. So I feel really happy with the way that Peter, the artist who made the statues of the Buddha and Gotami, depicts them. Both have expressions that show a lot of love and joy and bliss. And I think that's an accurate depiction of their internal qualities and realizations. And hopefully, anybody who sees these statues will be inspired to want to attain those same qualities in themselves.